Hey guys, Dev here from YouNerded.com to give you guys a review of Vice Principals. This time for Season 1, Episode 4, titled Run for the Money, which I don't think has anything to do with the episode itself, but it was a great episode, which is a bit of a departure from my opinion last week, which left a very sour taste in my mouth with that field trip episode. But now they got back to basics and they started doing what made the show good in the first place, and that's putting Gamby and Russell together and having them work together while also arguing. I thought this episode was effective in keeping on theme too, with Homecoming coming around, and that led to the introduction of Percival, which is basically a better North Jackson High with better vice principals and a more powerful principal and a crazy pep rally, all this kind of stuff. But I like that the show kept on theme, and that pretty much what set the show off into all the crazy antics that follow. We got a little bit more of Belinda in this episode as well, and sort of showing her home life, that her home is burnt down now, and I still sort of feel bad for her, like, because obviously it was a crazy thing to have your home burnt down, but she's living in a hotel now with her kids who are kind of disrespectful, very disrespectful, and you just see everything just taking a toll on her throughout this episode. With all that, Russell gets the idea that since Percival is known for their sort of dastard pranks, he can use this to sort of smear Belinda's name and destroy the school and just make her look bad as possible to sort of take her job. Obviously, that's the whole point of the show. But what this leads to is just a lot of antics between Gamby and Russell, which I think that's what makes this show great and what makes it funny. I thought the writing this time around was a lot sharper. You had funnier insults. I probably can't repeat half of them here, but they were funny, trust me. But this all led to the end of the episode where Russell, he wants the team to lose just so Belinda can completely just be destroyed and her morale wiped out. But Gamby, on the other hand, turns around later in the episode and wants North Jackson High to win because he saw how hyped they were at Percival. And in addition, Ray, who is the father figure to his daughter right now, was a former Percival student. So both of those things just drives Gamby to say, like, hey, let's win. This sort of leads to a conflict in the locker room with Russell and Gamby sort of fighting over the little canister with the LSD in it, and that ends up hitting them, which is pretty much the whole culmination of this episode. And that leads to a lot of funny visuals and just a sort of elongated bit with these two just going on an acid trip. I really like the fact that Russell went up to the other vice principal, kissed him, and then put the fingers up to him and sort of did the whole, like, shot his brains out or something, and then Gamby does the same thing. I thought it was just a fun visual. And then the whole alien beam thing that flew out of their hands with them saying, like, get out of here now, and it was just a whole bunch of whack stuff, which I really like what they did there. The show is funny, but it's also not afraid to do these dumb, exaggerated bits where it's just crazy out of nowhere, which I like. But I like that this episode was paced rather well and it led up to this just dumb thing. And obviously, that final line of "this is our home now" from Russell was just the icing on all the cake, and I thought that made for a great episode. Outside of the whole big acid trip event towards the end, there was still a lot to like about this episode in particular. You have the introduction of the new secretary, who's very nervous but also eager, and Deshaun sort of took a liking to her, talking about the whole corn dog situation, which we need more Deshaun in this show. He always has a funny scene, but we don't see much of him at a time. And then you have Miss Abbott, who's still hooking up with Gamby, which is the only storyline that really followed out of that field trip episode that was reflected here. But those two little things plus all the other big events made this a great episode. I gave it an 80 out of 100, which is a great score for us here at YouNerded. It's a bit higher than last week, which I only gave a 68 just because it was not great. But this episode brought everything back to where it needed to be and what made Vice Principals funny in the first place. And that's it for this week's review of Vice Principals. If you liked the video, definitely hit that like button. If you want to see more of this content, subscribe to the channel. Or if you just want to discuss with us in the comments below, leave one down below and I'll be there responding to that. Or if you want to get a hold of me directly, I'm at nerd.on Twitter. I will see you guys next week with another review of Vice Principals.